Hey everybody, Shawn Clement here from the Richmond Hill Golf Learning Center, and please say hello to Brandel Chamblee's The Anatomy of Greatness. Finally out, 1 week prior to the Masters. Yes, this week is Masters week. We just got a whole bunch of snow, and I tell you, we're going to be watching the Masters like crazy this week because we ain't playing, that's for sure. So it looks like we're going to be stuck in the cold stuff for another couple of weeks at least. So it's going to put us at opening our golf club late April again this year. So that kind of sucks. But we got some cool stuff. Now, first and foremost, if you've been with Wisdom in Golf for a while, you're on our premium channel, you watch our videos regularly, get yourself a copy of this book. Several reasons. It marks a turning point, finally. For the last 25 years I've been teaching. See, Brandel got this revelation. I got this when I was 25 years ago, and we've been teaching this profusely with amazing success. So finally we got some great backing, and we're going to be doing an in-depth book review. So you need to get the book, because I'm going to be referring to pages in the book, and then I'm going to be adding our 2 cents worth as far as wisdom in golf. And we're going to be doing even more in depth on the premium channel. So please do yourself a favor. You can get it online, a download, or you can get a copy, at your local bookstore. It is well worth it. It'll stay on your bookshelf for a long time. And it's got some great open pages that you can scribble in. I've been scribbling in this thing. I've been making a bunch of notes, and we are going to have a blast. So if you're new or relatively new to Wisdom in Golf, this is going to break you in big time. And if you've been with us for a while, it's going to be a fantastic refresher. It's going to help, seal the deal and dot the I's and cross the T's on many of the aspects of teaching that we do. So, without further ado, let's start. So I'm starting today with the ball position aspect. And in the book, page 39 and 40, Brandel talks about, there's been a debate as far as static ball position and dynamic ball position, meaning, is it movable? Can we move the ball around, or should we play the ball in the same position all the time? Well, our 2 cents goes even deeper than that, because you've seen, if you look at Ben Hogan and Jack Nicklaus, they both talk about, they come from the same, and this is you're going to find very interesting from the book, because Brandel talks about, Jack and Ben coming down the same roots, the same, what do you call those, family tree of golf instructors from the early 1900s. You're going to love that part of the book. And you'll see why a lot of the stuff that Jack and Ben have in common as far as their setup is concerned. So we talk about how with the wedge, we would have the stance narrower and a little more open, but the ball position in relation to the target line. Now, they talk a lot about target line at the time, whereas we at Wisdom in Golf don't bother with target line. We bother with the whole picture, which is Jack. That's why there's a little contradiction there in what Jack used to do, because Jack was a pictures guy. He says, I'm going to start it there, I'm going to end it there, and he talked about swinging into a moving picture. And so if we look at the wedge, and I narrow down my stance, and I open the stance, well, let's have a look at that. Watch this. If I open my stance, or I aim more left, and I don't change the ball position, notice how my ball is way back in my stance now, okay? So if we look at the sternal notch as being the center point where both arms reunite underneath, the center of my stance is right here. Notice the ball is way back in my stance now. So if I aim more to the right, now without changing the ball position, notice how the center is over here and the ball is way forward in my stance. So, in relation to the target line, yes, it's still the same ball position, However, in relation to my body center, it just went back in my stance as soon as I opened the stance. So it is a movable ball position, isn't it? Okay? So if we did the same thing with the driver, so you notice Ben used to close his stance with the driver. If you look at the 5 Modern Fundamentals in his book, and you watch Ben in action, and he did drop his right side back, well now, that ball position is no longer in the same position, is it? It's not off the instep anymore. It's actually further forward than that. It's actually right off the front foot. So, ball position isn't quite as it seems when it's being described with a change in stance. So if you change alignment and you change width in your stance, you actually change that ball position significantly, okay? So another way is if you look at the width of my stance. If all I did was change the width of my stance, so I've got the ball basically forward to center right now, and I widen my stance. But I keep the ball in the same position as, relative to my forward foot. Well, the center of my stance is, the center of my swing is now right over here. It's way back behind the ball now. So, if I narrow down my stance, and Bobby Jones used to play the ball forward as well, but with a very narrow stance. So if we look at feet together, you remember my feet together drill? So if I play the club in the center, the ball just forward of the club, well, basically my ball is just a hair forward to center. It's way closer to the center of my stance than it is my forward instep, isn't it? So, if I widen my stance just a bit more and I play the ball, off my heel, it's actually just forward to center. So you see what I'm talking about? So everything is not exactly as it seems. Now, the purpose of this video is I want you to have a nice experiment here, okay? And we're going to be talking about that even more in depth in the premium channel right here. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I'm sure you got the point. I want you to feel, so we talked about how we allow the weight of the arm club unit to track. So let me get my kettlebell here for a second here. So if I'm going bowling, I'm going to go to my wet paint sign right here. If I'm going bowling and I'm tossing my kettlebell toward the wet paint, well, once it starts in its momentum in the direction of that wet paint sign, I need to allow it to go, right? There's no way I can really change the direction of it unless, I get injured. I'm going to injure myself pretty significantly if I try to do that. So I'm just going to let the kettlebell go to wet paint, okay? So that's the flow of my momentum. So imagine I have a kettlebell in each hand here, and I'm going to do it from the side. So if I don't move the body out of the way, I'm going to nail myself in the head with that kettlebell. So the arm must be allowed to swing freely. Must be allowed to swing freely. So if you look at my video, one of the oldies but greats in wisdom in golf, arms and body timing, Shawn Clement. And we talk about not allowing the arms to hit you. So don't let the left arm hit you, don't let the right arm hit you. Out of the way, out of the way. So now I've got the weight of my arm club unit tracking in a way that it's tracking its own arc. It's out of my control. So if I play the ball more forward in my stance and I bring my center to the ball, now I'm just going to let momentum deliver in the direction it feels like it wants to go. So if this is my intermediate point here, and from the center it feels like it's going to move in that direction, I'm going to play the ball right opposite my front foot. Bring the center of my body right behind it. So imagine I had a door frame. Okay, let me get my door frame real quick, you guys. So if I play my door frame more forward, I bring my center right up against it. If I play my door frame further back, I'm going to bring my center behind it. So I feel like I'm always immediately behind the hit. Okay? So if I play the ball forward but I stay centered here, that's no good, because when I'm going to bottom out and center out here, and when I get to the ball, I'm actually going to hit it off the toe because the club is coming back to the inside. If I play the ball further back in my stance but stay centered, now I have to reach back in order to get to the ball. So I want to get back here and feel like I'm immediately behind the ball. So I play the ball forward in my stance, get myself immediately behind the ball, let momentum take it wherever it wants to. Well, look at that. Notice how it went way left in relation to that intermediate point. Now, if I play the ball way back in my stance, so there's the center, get behind the ball. So notice now my hips, knees, and shoulders looks like I'm going way out to the right. So I'm just going to let it go in the direction it feels like it wants to. Yep, that ball went actually a little less right than what I thought. Okay? So you're now going to understand that when you allow momentum to deliver the shot in the direction it feels like it wants to go, because of the dynamic aspect of impact, when the ball meets the club face, it's going to compress, it's going to rattle on the face for a bit, then it's going to release from it. So the ball always tends to go a little less left than what you think. Pardon me, a little less right than what you think. Okay? So this feels like it's going that way. So that is significantly out there to the right. So it's actually to the right of the next wet paint sign. So I'm just going to let it go in the direction it feels like it wants to go. So in dynamic range, so notice when I'm getting out of the way to let my arm swing freely, I'm collecting it here, releasing it there. Notice how significantly less to the right that is. So let it go where it wants to go. Wow, look at that. Just a little right of my keep out sign, it felt like it was going to go to the right of my support beam. Same thing here. That's just a little bit back of center. Get behind it. Then I'm going to let it go where it wants to go. Well, look at that. Just a little right of the wet paint sign, barely right there. And play the ball more forward than that. Well, look at that. And that's what a lot of you tend to do. You tend to line up too far right, and then you feel the need to play the ball forward in your stance in order to go in the direction to feel like you want to go on. So now, coming into impact, this lead leg is really in your way. It's going to be very, very difficult for you to get around that. So proper alignment is really important, and understand that we're lining up the momentum of the swing. So your ball socket system, you've got ball socket system in the shoulders, ball socket system in the hips. Well, they're parallel to each other, okay? So anatomically, your rib cage and pelvis reunites through the spine, and your shoulders and hips are parallel. So when you bring your hands together to take your grip, your hands and arms will tend to swing parallel to that ball socket system for a certain amount of time, right? So now if I play the ball too far forward, will you see what happens now? My alignment in my ball socket system changes. Even though my feet stayed there, my ball socket system can change. See that? So be first and foremost aware of where the ball socket system wants to go. So I want the flow of momentum to move in that direction. So let's say I want to play a little fade, start a little left of that, faded behind it. See that? Now it feels like my momentum is going left of that. I'm going to play the ball a hair forward to center, close the face a little bit less. Now it feels like I'm in a great position to hit that fade. So I've set up to hit a fade. Then there's no need to create the fade in my swing. So now I'm just going to let momentum, let the flow of momentum, like that kettlebell, go in the direction it feels like it wants to go. It doesn't feel like it wants to go this way. Doesn't feel like it wants to go that way. It feels like it wants to go basically parallel to my feet. So here we go. That's going to start to the left and fade back in the direction of my target. So I hope you appreciate that little tidbit. Well, it's a big tidbit, but once you're set up properly, your setup will create the shot. If your setup matches the picture, well, you just increase your chances exponentially to be able to create the shot that you need to, in order to advance yourself in this game. Enjoy that, and we'll see you on the premium channel.